Okay, let's take a look at some deeper things that you can do with the super knob. Now, one of the things that happens with controllers, you apply a controller, and usually it's a physical gesture. If you're moving the modulation wheel, you're moving something that's typically in the down position towards the maximum or rolling it up. Where the pitch bend wheel works a little differently. The pitch bend wheel normally is in the center, and you can go above and below the setting. All right? So some parameters, all right, benefit from what they call unidirectional control. Others require bidirectional control, and that's what we're going to get into now. So think about some of the destination parameters. Panning, for instance. You want to have something in the center, but you want to be able to pan to the right, you want to be able to pan to the left, okay? So that would be a perfect example of something that would be bipolar. Pitch bend, as I mentioned, you want to go north and south of the central pitch. Modulation, you usually apply from 0 towards a maximum. Volume, you apply usually from a minimum towards a maximum. The ribbon controller, all right, you have a choice here. You can go left of center, right of center, and have something different in the middle. All right, so on our previous keyboards, you kind of had to match the parameter to the controller, all right, in order for it to have it make sense. Well, now we have a bigger, better system that allows you to start wherever you like and move in whatever direction you like. And this is what unipolar and bipolar are about. All right, so we'll take a look at this. Now, we're going to also take one step deeper. We're going to go a little scuba diving here and go one step deeper. Instead of programming now on the upper level, we're actually going to drop down and actually program one of the individual parts. All right, so I mentioned previously that the system effects, the reverb and the variation, are shared effects. You access them by a send control from each part. But each individual part can have its own two, what we call insertion effects. Insertion effects, don't let this hurt your head now, but I mean, it's very simple to understand. You probably all played with a guitar player. Guitar player takes his guitar, takes the electric guitar out, inserts it into a stomp box, maybe a distortion. Then he takes the output of the distortion and plugs that into a wah pedal. And then the output of the wah pedal goes to his sound system. Those two effects are inserted in line with his signal. Nobody else is playing through those. The bass player is not using his effects. You're not using his effects. Those are his personal effects. That's what insertion effects are. On a rotating speaker on an organ sound, that's an insertion effect. Nobody else is plugged into the rotating speaker. It belongs to the organ player. So these are personal effects. These are effects that you want to have real-time control over. They're not communal effects like the systems where everybody has an opportunity to send in. These are your personal effects. So let's go to edit. Let's hit the edit button. All right. And what we'll do now, we're on the common audio edit. Now I want to come back to this. It says part 1, assign 1. What we're going to do is link the individual part to a super knob, all right, to one of the upper level knobs, and we'll see how that takes place in a minute. I'm going to drop into the part itself. So what I did was hit part select number 1. In the upper left corner of the screen, it says Edit Part 1 Common, okay, and the lower common button lit. So now I'm actually looking at an individual part, and we're looking at the effect routing. So this screen looks very familiar. I only have 1 out of the 8 possible elements active, and you can see that that one element is routed into a 3-band EQ. The 3-band EQ is then routed into a flanger. It says it's a classic flanger, all right? I also have an opportunity to go to insert B, but I'm not using anything there. We're just using that one effect because I want you to hear it. All right, the classic flanger. Out of the classic flanger, it goes into a 2-band EQ, and then it goes on to the outputs. You can see here, part output is the main left and right. I'm not using any reverb. I am not using a variation effect. I'm not using the envelope follower at this point. But those are all the options I have there. So let's take a look inside this classic flanger. It's Insert A. So here's a box in the column that says Insert A. I now drop into the effect and I'm looking at the parameters of this particular flanger. All right, so here again is LFO speed, 0.00. there's no flange. As soon as I increment this, you should start to hear some subtle movement. The higher I go, the more you hear. I'm up to 5 times a second, 10 times a second. You start to hear it as a pitch, all the way up to 39.7 hertz. So it actually crosses over into the range where it becomes a buzzer, all right? Okay, so now you notice that I'm using the data dial to directly control that parameter, all right? Now, you don't want to have to navigate to this screen in order to do that, all right? I want to assign control of that to a specific controller, okay? Now, once I've highlighted a parameter in the screen, you can see that the white boxes around LFO speed here, the control assign button starts to glow. That means this parameter can be assigned to any controller. And making an assignment is very simple. You touch the button, and it says destination parameter part 1, insertion A, LFO speed. Activate the source controller to assign it. So I want to assign it to assignable knob number 1. I touch that knob, it's assigned. It's that simple. And it automatically takes me to the screen where now I can control the depth of that. So now I have it on an assignable knob, all right? Remember, each part has its own 8 assignable knobs. But gee, it's not gonna, I need to link that to the super knob because I may want to do many different things, all right? Because there are going to be other parts that I'm controlling. So how do we link part 1's assignable knob to that upper level? And that's what we're going to talk about now. While we're in edit, I can go to common, okay? And that's where this part 1 assign 1 comes in. Now, we looked at this previously, all right? You can see the destinations on the upper level, part 1 assign 1. So part 1's assignable knob 1 is now linked to the upper common level or the super knob. So when I move the super knob, I can expect the same thing to happen. This is a very important thing because you can imagine I've got 16 destinations. There are 15 other destinations that I can assign. So we're starting slow here so that you can see what's happening. One of the things that happens when you dig into a pre-programmed or one of the presets is you have to know as much as that programmer. All right. So this is why we're taking it a step at a time. So you can download these particular sounds and actually work with them and step by step, see how it takes place. Okay. I can control it directly, or I can use the super knob to control it. All right. Real-time control. We've now linked part 1's assignable knob to the upper level or the super knob.